To Constance. It's a long way down the murky depths. These were the kind of flourishes, as my father called it, but my brain couldn't help but muster in the most inconvenient times. After all, I had agreed to this. Haven't I even offered? I wanted to help. Poor Molly was just too under the weather, and it wasn't fair to put her through this. And Lily, well, Lily was afraid of horses after all. Yet here I was, pulling out the corner of my cap, trying to keep warm from the stiff October breeze as I stood there, 60 feet in the air. "Is everything okay down there?" I called out again. My first attempt had gone unanswered. I arched my back slightly, stretched it on my neck to see if I could see what was going on in the crowd that had gathered below. The rich kid finally looked up. He held his in place and waved. "Everything is just fine," I nodded, but to be perfectly honest, I didn't believe him. What did rich kids know about fine? What was the rich kid's definition of fine, anyway? I figured our fines has to be very different, but what was I going to do? Climb back down the stairs? Well, yes, that was the thing I could very reasonable do. But I wasn't going to, because I was a team player. Again, as my father said, I didn't make a fuss. I did what was needed to get the job done. There wasn't space in our little apartment for me to make fusses. Not with Molly's star on the rise, and Lily's particular brand of narcissism being promoted to the chorus at the Diamond Lodge was definitely not helping there. No room for Constance to complain. No room for Constance to have much of a personality at all, really. Keep your head down, Constance. Do the job, get it done. I shifted my gaze out towards the stands. They were full, but that had been carefully or registered by the rich kid's dad, Mr. Chambers, to pay for the audience, and he needed a full audience for his little movie, after all. This time of year, with the tourists slowly dining out, getting locals at the steel pier. This time of year, with the tourists slowly dining out, getting locals at the steel pier to watch another horse diving show, was not exactly without its challenges. Add to that, the rider was nobody, who had at least minute to replace her with very fabulous somebody's sister. Well, if you paid the audience, it's a different kind of crowd is all I'm trying to say. They were restless. I could feel it, even from the way all the way up here. They were cold too, like me. Mr. Chambers have likely not counted on this, nor Lily went for his big shoot, and like me, they were dressed as if it was the summer. No, not quite in their bathing suits, and nothing else, but light dresses and lightened silks. I was glad they weren't in bathing suits. Lily always said that when she was nervous she imagined the audience in their skivvies, but I never understood that. She's clearly lacked the second-hand embarrassment gene that I have interfered from mother. "Oh dear, no, don't think of them like that," she said with response to Lily. "Oh dear, no, don't think of them like that," she said in response to Lily being outrageous, which of course was why she was outrageous in the first place. I said nothing, just kept my head down. I wanted to say that the thought of a whole audience of people of all sizes and shapes and genders, and their underthings, it made me blush and more uncomfortable, not less. No, I was happy to just try to ignore the audience altogether. Fortunately, when one was up on the diving platform, as one was now, the distance from the audience was such that you could barely make out individuals. Just a frustrated mass, a blob, an anxious waiting blob. The platform shook. I grabbed the metal rating beside me. My stomach lurched into my throat. Was the thing about to collapse? Was that what all the fuss has been about? My potential imminent demise. Yeah, you mean falling to your death? I heard my father's voice said in my head. Well, yes, father, that is what I meant. But I think in the fancy words, even as my life comes to an abrupt end, I'll tell you one thing. I never helping Molly out the tight spot again, that's for sure. I'll be hunting the heck out of her. I looked down the long set of stairs and saw the young man I didn't recognize was slowly climbing up with the Trex in tow. Oh, I see. It's time. The shaking had been perfectly saved. That kind of shake is to be unexpected. Not the kind of shake that, well, isn't. Trix did look fine. She brushed it to the sheen, her mane blowing in the wind like she knew she was a star. It was likely she did. I always gave too much credit to animals. Even Molly said as much. But I just thought, how could they not have feelings and opinions and such? They know us. They recognize us. Surely that ought to mean they like us, or don't, as well. Trix was beautiful, kind horse. She loved everyone. She was Molly's horse, but she was so sweet when I rode her. I could tell she enjoyed our time together. Did she enjoy diving into the small pool of water 60 feet below? But I wasn't as sure about. But she never complained it. Kept her head down, just like me. Hi there, I said. The young man was so close now. I was feeling a bit strange just standing there, waiting. I suppose that was what Molly always did. She was a star. The horse was brought to her. There was no one outside that world. But how can one just ignore a person right there? Hi, he said. He smiled, and I figured he had to be about my age, 17 or 18, but he looked tired. And what was that wonderful term? World weary? That was the one. Like he had something heavy on his mind. Thank you for doing this. I'm guessing Steve didn't show up, I said. I knew I sounded awkward. I was terrible at small talk. I don't know, but they needed someone to help out. Glanced down the ramp and took a step backward. I'm like that, I said quickly. He frowned his eyebrows at me. Like what? Oh, just when someone needs help, I helped. I was mean to say I appreciated that you helped it. That is, I understand why you volunteered it. Why was I still talking? I could tell from his body language he just wanted to get off the platform. Okay, he replied it. He glanced down again. I followed his look. A small crowd, including the rich kid and his father, was standing at the base, at the ramp. Look, I need to get back down. So, if you need help up? Huh? Back down? Helped up? I said. Ah, that was stupid. Well, do you? Oh, yes. Yes, I do. I definitely needed help up. I needed all the help I could get. Clearly, forget the thought of the audience in their underwear making me blush. My own words coming out of my own mouth were more than affected at that. Oh, why couldn't my brain be as articulated outside my head as it is in it? Trapped in my own brain. That's what it felt like. Sometimes all these feelings, these frustrations, just bubbling away, unable to get out. So, what do I do? He was getting tired of me. I was taking too long. I wasn't being professional. Oh, just hold her steady while I get in. She's a good little lady. She'll be easygoing though. That sounded like a something decent thing to say. A young man nodded. Need any help? Called out the rich kid's father just then. It didn't sound like a real concern, because it wasn't. It was an instruction. Get on with it. I guess we should get on with it, I said. I guess. The young man held Trix Riddle with slightly more than conviction than before, and he planted himself in a wide stance. I nodded it and quickly climbed it up on her back. It was similar to riding bareback. Aside from the bumper she wore at her shoulders that attached it around her front and prevented me from slipping too far forward when we dove together. It was for everyone's safety, hers and mine, and there wasn't a saddle or reins or stirrups. Once in the water, we needed to break free from each other easily. You all set? Asked the young man as I shifted my position slightly. Oh, yes, I said, looking down at him. Yes, thank you so much. I'll go then. He seemed unsure, but of course he never done this before, I assumed. Yes, please. I was trying not to get into the right headspace from the dive and feeling terribly nervous. I hoped I hadn't sounded curt when I replied. Oh, dang it all, maybe I had. My name is Constance, by the way, I said, turning as he started his descent. He looked back at me. I know. He turned around once more, and I felt like an idiot again, though I honestly wasn't sure why this time. I turned back and leaned down to pet Trix's neck. Well, I'm an idiot, aren't I, girl? I whispered into her ear. She gave a short snort then, and I laughed a little. You're not supposed to agree. Whenever you're ready. There was a rich kid's father again. I hated to think it, but I was pretty sure at this point I wasn't well fond of him. We're rolling. Whenever I was ready, and yet it felt like quite the opposite. They were ready. It is time. Oh boy, was I ever scared. No, I was supposed to call it nerves, never scared. Scared is not the same thing, Lily had insisted. Scared holds you back, nerves push you forward. Come on, Trix, let's get this thing done. Then we can both go home. She snorted it again, and I guided her slowly out, farther on the platform so that her hooves were just before the diving ramp, though one could hardly call a piece of wood. They hang out over and down from the platform at 90-degree angle facing toward the water, a ramp. Exactly. I leaned into Trix's neck. I felt her mane against my cheek, coarse but warm, with that wonderful familiar smell of dry hay. I squeezed with my arms and legs, holding my body as close to hers as I could. Okay, Trix, it's time. Let's fly. I squeezed her sides hard with a sharp single motion, and she stepped out onto the diving board, and then we were in the sky. The speed was sudden, and the cold wind rushed around us like it was alive. It was a mere seconds, and the water rose to greet us. I closed my eyes. Keep your head down, Constance. Do the job. Get it done.